next guest is a very funny guy and our very own resident MyPillow man.
Well, I'm being sued for $1.3 billion, and I need some representation. So it's right here in the law. Shows. Jingle and Jehoshaphat, how did I get in there? What kind of dark magic is at play?
His new stand-up comedy special, Path of Most Resistance, premieres on YouTube 1 week from tomorrow. Please welcome James Adomian. Say it's weird to see you as you.
I know. I was worried. I was watching it backstage, and I was like, did they get the wrong guy out of the claw machine? How do we know it's not just Mike Lindell who's like, I cleaned up really good?
No, sometimes, I have to say I'm confused because most of the time when we talk, every once in a while we're in the hall, we'll talk whatever, and it's you. And I have to tell you, it's always a little weird for me. But the mustache, is that always glued on, or sometimes you do have a mustache?
This has thrown people off for centuries.
Okay, okay.
Sometimes there is a mustache, and sometimes there's not. And then sometimes, I like mustaches, but they have a way of going away.
Uh-huh.
And so, sometimes when I'm here, it's fake, and sometimes it's real, but it looks realer when your makeup department does it, because that's how good they are.
It looks more like Mike Lindell. How long have you been doing that here now?
3 years?
3 years? Has that only been 3 years?
Since, right at the end of the pandemic.
I love it. It's one of my favorite things. I mean, it's one of those imitations that nobody else does.
Gosh, Jimmy, oh boy, oh boy, it's so great to be here. I feel like I live in a world of pillows, and you're the dreams that I have.
Tonight, the pillow comes off.
And they love this in Minnesota, especially where Mike is from, right?
I know, and he brought that up because he was here with us, right?
Right, yeah.
And he was like,
oh gosh, they really love you in the Star Tribune up in the Twin Cities.
Do you do, is Minnesota accent, like, was that in your repertoire beforehand?
I keep stumbling into it. I'm not from there. I've been there. It's cold. You know what it's like.
Yeah.
You go to Minnesota and you're like, how do they do this? And
yeah.
I just keep stumbling into it because they have like they've got the weirdest accent up there possible.
They do, right.
It's like we're lakeside, but it's also the lakes are made of ice.
Who else is from Minnesota? Governor Ventura, Jesse Ventura.
Yeah, you got it. It's way further down here. You got Jesse Ventura. It's like somebody took a standard Minnesota accent and left it in the oven too long.
And, well, Prince passed away. You don't do Prince, do you?
Yeah, well, it's the same as the Jesse Ventura. That's what it sounds like. The artist formerly known as the governor.
You did Bernie Sanders with Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I saw that. That was very funny.
Yeah, that was a fun thing to do.
Was it fun for Bernie? Did he...
No, he didn't know.
Because he's cantankerous.
He's a grumpy guy.
Yeah.
He's like America's granddad who didn't get the job of granddad. And he didn't want to do it. We were doing this thing, Bernie versus Bernie. He didn't want it. His team wanted him to do it, but he didn't personally. And then he was trying to back out at the last minute, and they were like, the senator wants to talk to you. He's not sure if he wants to do it. So I'm in the middle of putting this makeup on, and I get the phone call, and there's a tremendous throat clearing on the other end of the phone. Hello, is this James? And I was like, yes, Senator, I know this is a big break for you right now.
Yeah.
He was like, what are we doing? And I was like, well, I want to make you look good, talk about some numbers. The top 1% of the top 10% of the top 1% is a smaller percentage than the bottom 99% combined. The square root of 400 is 10 times 2. That's just pure math right there.
And does he think it sounds like, does he appreciate it?
No, he was like this. He was like, okay, all right. And he has a way, if Bernie has a microphone, he will touch it. He'll be like, all right, wait.
Yeah, drives TV people crazy.
How much longer are we doing this? And his wife, however, was behind him, like trying not to laugh.
Oh
and
yeah,
I was
she's
like,
got a good sense of
I
humor
was
about
like,
that
that's
stuff.
all that matters.
And is like, are the arms important when
We're
it comes?
testing out what exactly is the wingspan here. This isn't it like an endangered condor?
Have you ever worked in radio? Have you done that?
Like briefly at college radio. I think your background is radio.
Yeah, I started also in college radio. When I was in high school, I was always very advanced, but college radio, no one's listening usually to college radio. Yeah.
Right. And I used to call into like the open line radio stations
Oh,
here
you
in
did?
Los Angeles and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. And no one listens, so you can do whatever you want. And I mean, I grew up as a fan of it though. I love all those guys. I love like, you know, the terrible ones, the great ones.
Right, yeah.
You're tuned. And I love the overnight radio thing of this. I have this character I do sometimes, Don Valley, who's like, it's overnight radio, midnight to 5 a.m. Let me tell you about the overnight radio slot. If you're up this late, you might be watching television, but if you're listening to the radio, you're doing something sad.
You're very right. I love the overnight shift.
Now, let me tell you about rock and roll radio. Again, midnight to 5 a.m. are the hours.
You have this stand-up special, which is very funny. It's premiering on YouTube a week from tomorrow.
That's right. Thank
And
you. Path of Most Resistance.
This is your first taped stand-up special, right?
That's right.
And you did it where? You shot it here in LA?
Here in LA, yeah, at the Elysian Theater. And so it's coming out. We shot it a year ago, and it's coming out now. It took that long to edit out all the laughs and put in laughs from funnier stand-up specials. It's me in the editing booth going like, get that laugh out of there. Get a Mark Maron laugh in there.
You talk about talk about being Armenian and Armenian American.
I do. And we get one laugh out of it, exactly.
And you also, and boy, I hope this doesn't embarrass you, but as the special goes on, so this is toward the beginning of the special.
That's beginning, yes.
And then we get a little
Started to
bit.
get a little wet there. Yeah.
And
then
then
you see,
Right.
it's a Rorschach pattern.
And then finally,
Jimmy, it's whatever you want to see, really.
you know, if you'd skipped right to completely soaking wet, no one would have noticed.
That was, believe me, there were some heated conversations backstage.
It looks like they were all heated conversations, yeah.
Actually, you got it backwards. I was drying out over the course. I started wet and I was drying out.
That's a great title for the next one, yeah.
Speaking of another title, my cousin told me, he was like, oh, good job on your special, Path of Moist Resistance. And I'm like, I missed it. I missed it. That was a good one, Richie.
It's not too late. Good old cousin Richie. Well, James Adomian has a stand-up special. It's called Path of Most Resistance. There's no I in most. It's on YouTube a week from tomorrow. James Adomian, everybody. We'll be right back.